Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another very interesting combination to try out with a shell that's not really designed to be a turkey load, but it kind of falls in line with testing some of these more field oriented shells to see just how good they are or how capable are they when it comes to being a turkey shell. Could you use them, or are they just not really worth your time? But as for the shells I brought today, I got out some of these. They're good old federal game loads, but these ones are their 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch 1 ounce payload of lead 6s, moving about 1290 feet per second. These are your very typical, very common low brass dove type of loads. There's nothing fancy to them at all. I think every one of you guys has probably run 1,000 of these at some point or another, but could you actually use them through a turkey combination out to 40 yards or so? I don't know. I want to do a more in-depth test with these at a bunch of different ranges and stuff to see what they're actually capable of. So we will do that in the future, but for today, I want to get a starting point and just see where we're at. But as for the setup we're going to run those through, I brought out my Remington 1187. It has a 28-inch barrel on it, but for the choke, I put in the Carlson's Longbeard XR 660 constriction. I figured these are a very basic load of lead 6s, so maybe a little bit more choke might help them out a little bit better. So instead of going with a basic 665, I decided to go down to a 660, and I know this choke does well with other lead 6s, so who knows? Maybe this combination might be good enough for turkeys at 40 yards, or maybe it'll be kind of all over the place and very disappointing. We'll just have to see what happens. So as for today's test, I'm not going to handicap these at all. I want to see what they're going to do at 40 yards, because if they're good enough at 40, we know they're going to be good enough in at closer ranges, although I do still want to do a more in-depth test with them at some point. So our turkey target is at 40 yards, and I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see if the classic federal game loads can actually be good enough to get the job done on a turkey at 40 yards. I have no idea what we're going to see, but let's take our shot and just see what happens. Alright, so that shell gave us 1303 through the chrono. Boss claim is 1290, so we are pretty much right there where we're supposed to be at, just a touch over that claim from that 28-inch barrel. So looking perfect for a velocity up here, but did they actually give us a usable 40-yard turkey pattern? I don't know yet, but let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, well, now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. And right off the bat, it does appear that I was high on the paper there. That really surprises me, considering I'm never high with that particular shotgun. But who knows, maybe these just shoot a little bit high with that kind of velocity through that choke. Either way, we do still have a dead turkey here. There's one right through the brain there, and one would have been enough right there. You got a couple more down close to the spine, but if that was centered up a little better, yeah, you would have absolutely had a dead turkey all day long. Now, initially speaking, here looking at the pattern, is this a great turkey pattern? No, it's not. However, I think we all knew that coming into it, that we shouldn't expect anything super amazing here. This is a 2 3/4 inch 1 ounce payload of 6s. That's a straight up field type of load, so we're doing something that's not really designed for. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, well, why didn't you just take another shot to center it up a little bit? Well, I'm actually running a little bit low on turkey targets right now, and I've got a bunch of other stuff to film for you guys. But like I already mentioned, I do want to come back to this and do a more in-depth test at different ranges and stuff to see what happens. But I will go ahead and throw up a 10-inch circle equivalent right up there towards the top, so you guys can get a view of what the core of the pattern actually looks like, and it would be usable out to 40 yards. I obviously wouldn't want to push it any farther than that, and ideally 30 yards and in, you're going to be perfectly fine with these shells. So we'll move in here and look. We definitely have a little bit of a hotter area right off the top of that turkey paper right there, but as soon as we get outside of that, we do pick up a few voids and stuff, and obviously we have a bunch of little flyers and strings and voids and everything else all around the edges here, so it's not great as far as a turkey pattern goes, but it is good enough to get you a turkey out to 40 yards. If you are recoil sensitive, or maybe only have a 12 gauge and are taking a new hunter out, or a youth hunter who's going to be taking 20, 25, maybe a 30-yard shot, that would absolutely do just fine for you. It doesn't matter if it's a field load or a game load or a turkey shell or anything like that. a lead 6 at 1300 feet per second is going to be the same no matter what shell it's actually coming from. So I would say this is about what I expected to see. It's good enough, but clearly not a dedicated turkey pattern. However, I do think we tried to tighten up the core-ish area up there at the top a little bit with that 660 Longbeard choke. So maybe there's still a little bit of potential here. If we can find the right choke combo, which might be a lot tighter than this, considering what the shell actually is, we might be able to condense that down a little bit more than that, or at least some of these little outskirt frays around the edges we might be able to tune in. So I would say pretty middle of the road today. It didn't do anything unexpected, that's for sure, but it's not completely atrocious either to where we covered the entire paper in pellets or anything like that. So there is a little bit of hope here that we might be able to refine that a little bit still. And here's the wad from that shell. Very, very short field style wad here. I mean, there's my thumb for comparison. It's like 1 and maybe a half of my thumb widths tall. And I don't think it does much as far as keeping the actual pattern together. I think this is more so just so you don't have a bunch of lead pellets scraping your bore. But there's nothing stuck down in there and there's no major damage. There's a few little pinholes around the edges, but doesn't really look like it snagged on anything or completely destroyed itself. So really nothing too special to see here as far as the wad goes. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that result right there? I don't think it's anything too surprising. I think that's probably what a lot of us expected to see. Technically, it is good enough out to 40 yards to get you a turkey with it. Especially if we moved that down a little bit and centered it up a little bit better, you would have had a number of pellets right through the head and neck area. Now obviously, we're trying to do something with those shells that they weren't really designed for, so we shouldn't expect a Longbeard XR number 6 type of pattern. But I will say, for a 1 ounce load in a 2 3/4 inch shell, that isn't terrible. I think with the right choke, maybe it might be more constriction than what a lot of us might think these want, but with that right choke, I still think we can get a little bit tighter of a pattern out of that. So at that point, I don't know, is it kind of just messing with something that isn't really worth it? Maybe, but I wanted to see what a bunch of different field loads can do, and clearly that would be capable out to 40 yards, but really, if you had a youth hunter and you only had a 12 gauge to use, that'd be a very cheap shell that they could practice with. That's very nice in the recoil department, and if you're going to be taking 20, 25, maybe a 30-yard shot, you're going to be perfectly fine, even if it's not the ultimate turkey pattern. It's going to give those type of situations a little bit more leeway to deal with as well, so it would be perfect for that. But I guess leave all your thoughts down in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you ever tested any of these federal game loads as far as a turkey load goes? Or would you hunt with that pattern or that combination? And what other chokes might you want to see us try those through when it comes to turkeys? I want to do a more in-depth test with it at different ranges, but what chokes do you want to see us test that you think might actually do a little better with these shells? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.